This Drexel Accolade is about to get an extreme makeover. It's, from the early 80s. It's in great condition. Of course, the top has some damage to it because after 40 or 50 years, who wouldn't? I thought, okay, let's just get started with the sander. I have 120 grit on there. It did nothing. So I went in with my carbide scraper. Again, boy, Drexel has thick varnish on here. It did nothing. Back to the sander. So now I have an 80 grit sandpaper on here. I don't recommend it for everything, but sometimes you just got to tear through stuff. So as long as you use this carefully, I don't do a lot of the edges with the 80 grit, but it definitely was what I had to use in order to get this off of here. Of course, sanding the top, sanding the sides. Here's a little real time. It's slow. Same thing on the drawers. I'm using an 80 grit. And of course, I'll work through the grits because once you start at 80, now you've got to do 120, 180, 220, and that's where I stop. Details, had to do a lot of hand sanding, and like magic, boom, sanded. This is 80 grit, and then the top I've done with 120. You can already see the difference. It's not so blotchy. I've got to start getting the little brass details off of here so that I can sand the rest of these edges. I have a real thin screwdriver that I put in there and then was able to tease that right off. Okay, let's get started on these round edges and see how we go. So I've got a sanding net or mesh and one of my little sanding blocks, a rubber sanding block. It's the same shape as this curve. And I have the entire edge of the dresser to do. There's no way I'm doing that by hand. So this sanding pad that fits my orbital is going to happen. If you don't have one of these, I'm going to link everything. You make sure you get these because they're amazing. I have a surf prep and I still think these work better on some areas. It's still an orbital, it's turning, it's doing everything, but because of that pad, you can use it on rounded areas. You still have to keep it moving or you'll damage it. Okay, and of course the orbital does not get into the tiny details, so carbide scraper for the win once again. More of the sanding net or sanding mesh. And it's clean as a whistle. Now I have to do the entire thing. Lots of sanding still to come. But now I'm working through the drawers with the 120, 220. Did you see that cat? It's not my cat. Okay, sanded the legs, sanded the drawers. The case is all done. Time for a paint wash. I'm using Algonquin by Fusion. This is a 5-to-1, so 5 parts water, 1 part paint. And then with a poly brush, I'm just going to put it on there. I have it pretty diluted, so I'm not going to put it on and wipe it off. I'm going to actually just put it on there and let it stay. It'll soak right in. I like doing it this way a little bit better. You get a little more coverage. This oak, I didn't really show it here, but when you get it wet, it turns orange. So the Algonquin does have a hint of green in it, which tends to cancel a lot of that orange out. And same thing with doing all the drawers. Just brushing it on. Look at the orange dresser in the background. That's kind of where we started. So you can see the huge difference between where I am now and where I was. While everything's drying, it's time to address the hardware. I'm using a method called hardware soup. Put everything in a pan, 50-50 of vinegar and water. Let that boil with a lid for about 15 minutes. Take everything out into the sink. I'm using Barkeeper's Friend. I use the soft one and steel wool. And I just cover it all over with Barkeeper's Friend. And then elbow grease does the work. It comes off pretty easy because of the boiling, but look at that. I mean, seriously. These are now stunning once again. Okay, same paint wash on the legs. Just gonna have everything coordinate. Here's the paint wash all dry. Looking pretty good. And I'm gonna take a moment and clean the inside because pretty soon the drawers are gonna go back in and I wanna make sure that's clean. And look at these tracks. Years of gunk on them, and then of course all my sand dust. the sanding dust just gets in there. Here it is all clean. Look at that. Boom, boom. How did I clean it? WD-40. I just sprayed it in the track, and I have a paper towel, and I just keep scrubbing. This is the shortened version. It takes a couple of minutes to clean it all, but once you get it all clean, that track moves so easily. Okay, here we are. It's all dry. Time for some top coat. I use General Finishes High Performance Top Coat in flat. It's my favorite. I'm just, again, brushing it on with a poly brush. I'm planning on doing 3 or 4 coats of top coat on this. I want it to be super durable and last for many years, so lots of coats. Working my way through all the drawers. Here it is dry, and I'm sanding, and I don't really like it. It looks blotchy. You can see the side looks kind of blotchy. So I'm gonna tint my next layer of top coat. I probably added, it's just kind of a dollop, I don't know, a tablespoon or so. Again, I want it to be sheer, but now I'm gonna use it as a toner. So I don't like blotchy, but look at the top of it now. Beautiful. And I like drawer liners. I use them. I use them when the drawers are ugly. These drawers are stunning. No need for drawer liners here. So I'm gonna just use some wax. It smells like oranges. It's beautiful and smells lovely. But I'm just gonna condition these drawers and they're good to go. So here's another drawer. This is the top drawer. Removing that same liner, only to find out there's another liner under it. And of course the liner under it is wood grain. Now, why would you put a wood grain over the wood grain? Especially over the wood grain that's beautiful. And it is dry and brittle and cracking. I'm gonna be here for days. But hello, Wagner heat gun, yes. So when you use a heat gun on this old drawer liner or wallpaper, it heats it up and makes it so that it's kind of gooey again and it's not brittle. I overheated that and it came apart, so you have to just keep this moving. You heat, and then pull. And you gotta be careful, don't burn yourself. But it makes this really pliable. It kind of reactivates everything. So you just heat it a little and pull. And this would have taken me, I don't even know, an hour. And it is a little slow going, but this still probably only took me about 10 minutes. I did have a little bit of glue residue, so I'm taking some acetone and steel wool, which is kind of like nail polish remover. So it does break the glue apart, and then I just have to wipe it out, and then I'm putting the conditioner in there again. But look at that drawer. It's beautiful. The other side has this cute organizer in it. It's felt and says Drexel. I never get those. Time to put some details back on. These brass corners are going back on, just a little tap tap, and those are in place. And then today's my lucky day. I should buy a lottery ticket. I turned this over to put the legs on, and it already has the receptacles for it. So it had the nuts on there. My hanger bolts fit right in it, and I was good to go. That was the fastest leg installation ever. Make sure you number your drawers when you take them out so that they go into the right place. It makes this a whole lot easier. You don't want to play drawer Jenga at the end, especially when you've got everything all done. Time to put the jewelry back on. Beautiful. These are not painted. That's just from using the hardware soup, and the little elbow grease and solid brass just shines. Let's take another look at where we started, and here's where we are. I think it's beautiful. These dressers are just built to last, and campaign dressers are just so unique and beautiful. I hope you like it. Make sure to follow for more.